I've been thinking about the way that all my videos recently have been either refuting points made by other people or fighting prejudice as I perceive it in the world. And that I'm having trouble coming across in a personal way. So the ways that I see to create a more personal atmosphere in my videos would be to tell you about something which contributed to me being who I am, and tell you what I learnt about it. When I was about 13 years old, I started to realise that the way that Disney films and children's stories had depicted the world to me was not in fact how it was. This shock revelation coincided with the end of my delusions of popularity at secondary school, when I discovered that everyone was bitching about me. There's really no point in me telling you the reasons why it happened, because they're not significant. In fact, one of the reasons I hated myself so much during this period was because I had absolutely no reason to feel the way I did. Anyway, after some time of kind of bullying and a feeling of intense isolation and what I now recognise as the onset of depression, I began to self-harm in my room. I began to fantasise about suicide a lot of the time. I fantasised about killing people at school. I fantasised about hanging myself on the stage at school during a final assembly when the entire school was there, so that when the curtains were drawn back on the stage for the assembly, I would be hanging there, you know, after having written accusatory suicide notes to everyone that had ever done me wrong. Anyway, I began to become extremely scared. I got myself some counselling. The counselling didn't do any good at all. I started to self-harm more and more. I was self-harming about 5 or 6 times a day at least, and I wanted to stop this kind of constant pain that I was experiencing. The counsellor recommended antidepressants. They hadn't done any good. I felt worse, if anything. So I called up my counsellor, or my psychotherapist by this time, and asked her if I could see her, and she said no, that it was a Saturday, she didn't work on Saturdays, and that if I needed to see someone I should go down to an emergency psychiatrist. I went to an emergency psychiatrist. That's just someone they've got hanging around in the A&E department to talk to nutters, and told them that I wanted to kill myself, that I was afraid I was going to do so without having any control over it myself, and that it would be in my best interest for them to keep an eye on me, for me to be under observation by a professional. I was admitted to a children's ward. I went on to a mental health unit, I believe is the correct term to use, although I've always just called it a mental unit. I was sent onto a mental health unit in central London, where I lived for a couple of months. These were the hardest months of my life, the hardest 3-year period of my life, really. At the beginning of the depressive period, right up until I started to be able to function as a human being again. During that time, I wrote diaries. Unfortunately, I'm at university at the moment, and I don't have the diary that I wrote with me, but I do have a piece of writing I wrote about the experience called Admissions of a Mental Patient, and I'm just going to read you a small part of that, because I think it shows exactly how I felt. Insanity brings a certain freedom as a peace offering. I am angry, so I will scream and throw my plate at the wall. I am sad, so I will cry and draw blood and rock on my haunches. I have nothing to lose, so I will laugh to myself. I am nothing, so I will sit here, unmoving, thinking of blankness for the rest of eternity. Inside this place, the human psyche is stripped bare. We do not hide from one another. We do not judge. Our behaviour does not make others uncomfortable. If I want to take off my clothes and hurl myself at the wall as hard as I can, I will merely be watched and then sedated, without comment. We do not have responsibilities. We do not make decisions for ourselves. We are free behind reinforced doors, more free than any bird. Must not the bird find food and shelter and be prepared for an attack at all times? We are safe here. Some mornings the head nurse on duty will order us to dress appropriately for a walk. Dressing appropriately means covering weeping wounds and vivid bruises, changing out of pyjamas, wearing warm enough clothes for the January weather, taking whatever meds are placed in your hand. It doesn't take long to forget that slippers are not the usual footwear outside. It doesn't take long to forget about outside. The prospect of putting one foot in front of the other is exhausting. So too the prospect of climbing the stairs to my room. The lethargy takes hold of my limbs and embraces them. I am heavy. I tell the nurse, weakly, that I do not feel well enough for a walk, too tired to explain myself to her hardened face. If I was able to express what I meant, it would probably be something to do with the chasms and vacuums in my stomach, with the searing pain in my brain and the terrifying nothingness in my heart. I am a paradox because I do not care about these things. I am glue on a hot paving slab. Setting. I included a poem in this piece of writing that I actually wrote in my diary at the time, and it goes like this. Like an iceberg in the Mediterranean Sea, I am out of place and melting, dissolving into green slush. If icebergs could feel, I would be desperately lonely in this warm place, but I am made of ice and I am only very cold and very hard. Millions of tropical fish swim around me in immutable schools, knowing instinctively which way to turn and how to stay with the group. They pay me no heed. What business is it of theirs if an iceberg has strayed from where it belongs? Their concern is safety in numbers. Individual contemplation is dangerous. Besides, who is interested in a colourless block of ice? We are multicoloured and beautiful, and you are simply melting into the warm water to become like all the other warm water, warm and indistinguishable. You are not beautiful or colourful, and you don't know which way to turn or how to stay with the group. And now you're melting whilst we swim by in our predetermined direction. The reason that I have told you all of this about myself, and that I have read these extracts from this piece, which I hope one day, to complete and publish, is I wanted people to realise, and I learned through this experience to realise, that people are extremely fragile, and that your decision to engage with a person and love a person and make sure the person's okay and help that person out could actually be life-saving. I urge you to hold your nearest and dearest close to you and tell them that you love them and that they're beautiful. Even your kids, they could be wanting to die without you even knowing about it. My mum is a good mum, but she didn't know. And I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just trying to raise awareness for the fact that people suffer alone, and that depression debilitates you to the point where you can't actually express how you feel anymore. And as I said, I didn't have a logical reason to feel that way, so I didn't feel like I could achieve support from anyone around me. I didn't feel that I could tell my mum because my mum thought I was happy, and I didn't want her to think she was a bad mum because I wasn't. If anyone else watching has shared a similar experience and would like to converse with me privately or leave a video response, I would love to do that. I think it's very cathartic for me to relive these moments, to realise how far I've come and how strong I am now, and how much happier my life is. I mean, look at what a beautiful day it is outside. I'm going to go out and enjoy the sunshine for once, having spent 5 solid days of my life making YouTube videos. It's time. Anyway, peace everyone, thank you.